The schedules are set, the pads are on, and we're just about ready to start the 2020 NFL season. I want to talk about the Bears this year, and for that, I need the help of CBS Chicago's Matt Zahn. How's it going, Matt?
Going pretty good. Good to have football back. Let's just hope we get the season in.
Let's just hope we get there. We still have a couple weeks left, so a lot could change in that time, but still, it's going to be a much different year than what fans and players are used to. So how are the Bears adapting to this unusual offseason? And not to mention the cancellation of the preseason.
But I think the big thing when you talk to them for the first time about that is that every team is in the same boat. So there's no advantages really for anybody. Nobody had any OTAs or mini camps. Nobody has any preseason games. So it's all on the practice field. And I guess head coach Matt Nagy was saying the one thing that he's trying to do in practice is just as many reps as they possibly can when they're going in the live period. So the tempo is a big key, trying to cram everything in because not only is there no preseason, they really don't have that many practices. I believe 15 total to get it in before they have to make a decision. And they have a lot of decisions to make in this camp as well, including, of course, the quarterback, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yeah, I want to talk about that next because the Bears start camp with a quarterback competition between Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles. So what are the coaches looking for to determine the starter this year?
Yeah, I think when you start with that, you have to say when it comes to Mitchell Trubisky, he has to show that he's improved because he's even said it. He wasn't good enough last year. That was not good enough quarterback play. So I think it's on Mitchell Trubisky to have to go out there and win this job. As far as Nick Foles, I'm not sure. As long, they kind of know what they have in that guy. Even though he hasn't been here, he knows the system from this offense, working with it before. So I think it's on Mitchell Trubisky to show in practice, because that's the only place he can do it, that he has done enough to improve, mentally and physically, that he can actually, be a high-level quarterback in this league, which he hasn't shown, especially last year.
Well, and what kind of talent do the Bears have on offense to improve on what was one of the NFL's worst offenses last season?
Well, and that kind of goes along with the quarterback. Does it matter who wins the quarterback job if they don't have much else on offense? The big additions were Jimmy Graham and Ted Ginn, along with an offensive lineman as well. Those just aren't going to move the needle at this point. Jimmy Graham hasn't been good for a few years, although he has looked good the first couple of days of practice, but we'll see if he can last the whole season. Ted Ginn, how much does he have to offer at this point? So I don't see a lot there for the offense to be a lot better other than the quarterback being much better. And one thing that I didn't mention with Trubisky before is last year they didn't have him run very much, and that was a weapon for him 2 years ago. So if Trubisky puts more of his running into action, if he does win the job, maybe that's the way the offense is better. But right now I don't see it being a ton better in 2020.
Well, in the pandemic this year, of course, bringing a lot of uncertainty to many Americans. NFL players, of course, not excluded from that. Two Bears opted out of the season due to coronavirus concerns. Nose tackle Eddie Goldman and safety Jordan Lucas. So how will the loss of Goldman specifically, in particular, I guess, affect the Bears' dominant defense this year?
Yeah, nationally, Eddie Goldman probably isn't a big name on this defense. You think of Khalil Mack first, and then maybe, Akeem Hicks as well. But Goldman is, he's the man in the middle on the defense, and he's big when it comes to their really good run defense. Now they have a young guy, Bilal Nichols, who's probably going to be the guy to step into that role and can maybe 80% of what Eddie Goldman, but that's going to be a big loss. And, as we've talked about the offensive struggles, it's on this defense to carry a lot of load for this team. So without Eddie Goldman, it could be a problem.
Well, Matt, are there any other big storylines that we haven't touched on so far as the Bears are in training camp right now?
Oh, well, I just mentioned Khalil Mack. I mean, that's sort of a question that's been asked. We haven't been able to ask him yet, but, can he get back to that superstar all-pro level? He was really great 2 years ago, really great out of the gate last year, and then sort of tailed off, and there wasn't much explanation as to why. So if he can get back to that, that wreaking havoc level, I think that's a big key for the defense. And the other thing, going back to the offensive side, is can that running game improve? It was just abysmal, one of the worst in the league last year. And again, they're kind of going with the same guys there, maybe working wide receiver Cordero Patterson more there, but he's more of a gimmicky guy. It's going to be on David Montgomery, who was a rookie last year, to step it up. But those are two big questions, I think, for this team going forward, besides, obviously, the quarterback issue.
And Matt, only a couple more weeks until we get to see all of this in action. Thank you so much for joining me today. Talk all things Chicago Bears. The Bears open up this year in Detroit against the Lions September 13th. Katie Johnston for CBS Chicago.